Good evening. Welcome to Let's Talk with Dr. Shanessa Fenner. I'm, of course, Dr. Shanessa Fenner, and I'm very, very excited today to have a very, very special guest here in the studio with me, Police Chief Troy McDuffie. How are you doing this evening, Mr. McDuffie?
Doing great, doing great.
Good, good. I want you to first start off by telling the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'll try to keep it brief. Again, my name is Troy McDuffie. I'm the Chief of Police for the town of Spring Lake.
Okay.
I'm a 27-year law enforcement veteran. Of course, I took over the Spring Lake Police Department about 3.5 years ago after the turmoil that the department was embroiled in. Prior to that, I was the Chief of Police with Red Springs for 3.5 years.
Okay, so you're from Red Springs, that area?
No, ma'am. I'm actually from Fayetteville.
Okay.
But prior to that, I was 3.5 years as the Chief Deputy in Hope County. But my law enforcement career, I started with the Fayetteville Police Department. Excuse me. I spent about 16 years with them. I'm a native of Fayetteville. Moved here when I was about 4 years old. I'm 49 now.
What high school did you attend?
Graduated from 71st High School.
Oh, great. So you're a Falcon just as I am. Okay.
I am a 71st Falcon.
Okay, I am too.
Obtained my undergrad from Columbia Southern University. About 5 courses short to obtaining my graduate, my master's in criminal justice from Columbia Southern.
Oh, okay.
So I've been doing this quite a while. Enjoy what I do. I'm married, have 3 adult children.
Oh, you do?
3 grandkids.
Okay.
They're the love of my life, my grands.
Okay.
But that pretty much, that sums it up.
Okay. Your 3 children, tell me a little bit about them.
Well, I have a daughter. She's actually finishing up her PhD. She's at Temple University.
Oh, okay.
And I have the next daughter. She lives here in Fayetteville. She's the occupational therapist. She received her graduate degree from Winston-Salem. She's here in Fayetteville. And then I have a son, but he's still a work in progress, but he's doing well. He attends FTC Community College.
All right, okay. Well, Police Chief, let's talk a little bit about the Trayvon Martin trial. Okay, a very, very much talked about trial. When I heard the verdict Saturday evening, I was very, very disappointed, I must say.
Understand.
I mean, my heart goes out to, the Martin family. I know his mother is just, I can only imagine how she feels right now at this time, Of course, she feels like, as many people do, that justice was not served. I thought about immediately, all of my friends who have sons,
Right.
and how, what kinds of conversations would they be having, or are they having, with their children, and trying to explain to them, why did this happen, found not guilty. So talk to me a little bit about how you feel about the Trayvon Martin verdict.
Well, the Trayvon Martin, that incident, of course, we all know was very tragic. And upon hearing the verdict, of course, there was some disappointment because just based on the evidence from what I know, just based on my law enforcement experience, I assume that the verdict probably would have been a little bit different than it was. But it's our justice system. Again, I wasn't there. I don't know all the circumstances or the evidence, but still, just based on my experience in law enforcement and based on what I've heard about the Trayvon Martin, and of course, a lot has been said. It was a disappointing verdict. Again, in my line of work. What we expect and what we like to see is justice. But the justice system has spoken. It doesn't necessarily mean that that I or others will agree. but again, felt the outcome would be a lot different than what it was.
And I did too, because the first thing I immediately thought, I said, wow, you can go serve time for killing animals, but, you don't serve time for killing a black teenager, so it was very, very, disheartening for me.
Right.
Okay.
Well, again, Trayvon Martin, again, was a young black male, 17 years old. Based on the evidence that, was presented, this young man was on his way, to the store when this altercation, the confrontation occurred. And he's no longer here at 17 years of age. It's just very tragic.
He had his whole life ahead of him. The operator, told him to, told Zimmerman to leave it alone,
Right.
And, and if he would have left it alone and followed what the operator said, Trayvon would be, living today. That is just
Right.
basically how I feel and how I see things.
I think, that's probably, what dwells on most people's mind. Now, there's a lot of other factors, involved when it comes with when it comes to the law. And again, I've been through many cases, or been involved in many cases where the verdict, that the outcome was different and disappointing and unexpected. But in law enforcement, for us, we just we come to accept it. Because we know whether it's a 6 or it's a 12-person jury, when that decision goes to that jury, anything could happen. The average person, average citizen, and this is our profession, this is my profession, they may look at law maybe a little bit different than, say, a law enforcement officer, even, myself included. We know that, and I tell my investigators, again, even if it's a case that it's a clear cut, this person's guilty, of this offense, still, it's our responsibility, it's their responsibility to tie that case up, to leave, no tables unturned, and to present, their findings to the district attorney's office so that they, present a airtight case. And even with that, it's the prosecutors, it's their responsibility then to convince the jury that, hey, this person is guilty of that crime. But I wasn't surprised. I was not totally surprised by the verdict because, again, I've been doing this, for 27 years, and I've seen cases that have been really airtight, and the verdict does not turn out as you would expect.
Okay. Now, Chief, I want to talk a little bit about whenever a police officer stops a car. Okay. What should the procedures be? Of course, we hear all the time on the news and read in the paper about someone was stopped and they searched the car and the person didn't give them permission. And, talk to me a little bit about how, if someone stopped, what's going to be said, what's the correct procedure? Can you tell them, no, you cannot check my car, Just talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, generally, most agencies, and I'll speak for the Spring Lake Police Department.
Okay.
The officers, men and women, they have guidelines. They have policies and procedure that they must follow. These policies and procedures is what I expect them to follow. I'm real big on leadership and guidelines, letting a person know, okay, this is what you are supposed to do, other than just looking back at their training. But getting to your question, if a person is stopped, an officer pulls a person over, generally the officer is going to approach, and the first thing that should come from the officers, their mouth is, let's say, your driver's license and your registration. They're going to want to know, who you are, and they want to know, okay, you know, are you driving illegally? Now, if you were the individual, just, you know, put yourself, I mean, just comply. There are times when the person, especially if they feel like they haven't done anything, they're immediately, well, what did you stop me for? I would encourage, you know, a person that's been stopped, you know, just listen to the officer's instruction and provide them with the driver's license and the registration. Then that officer should explain to the person, okay, this is why I stopped you. If the officer does not, then you ask the question. But a Spring Lake police officer, you know, through our policies, through our guidelines, through their training, really that's the approach that you should take, or they will take when they pull a person over for a violation. Now, you know, once the person, you know, you've informed the person, or once they have informed the person, you know, why they're stopping them. You know, let's say, for example, they didn't stop. They said, well, ma'am, how fast were you going? Well, I was going, you know, 45 miles per hour, where I clocked you at 60 miles per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone. The officer may ask, is there a reason why, you know, you were traveling so fast? But bottom line, just let the officer, you know, do his job. He will turn to his car. He may check their system, you know, to run your tag, run the insurance information, but just allow him to do his job. Now let's turn to another hypothetical situation. The officer returns, and he says, well, Dr. Fenner, do you mind if I check your car? Well, what do you want to check my car for?
Exactly. What do you want to check my car for?
Well, ma'am, do you mind if I look in your car? You ask that question again. Bottom line is, do you have to give that officer, you know, the authorization to look into your car? No, you don't. You know, and the officers are well aware of this. Generally, unless they have probable cause, and normally, typically, you know, if they're going to tell you to step out the car and they automatically start searching your car, they better and should have a legitimate reason. But if it's just in consent, no, a citizen does not have to consent to a search of their vehicle. Now, if there's something, you know, in that vehicle, and an officer still feels like he needs to get into that vehicle, I mean, we have other means. We'll just detain the vehicle. You know, contact a DTEC, or if there's some type of operation going on, and you can always get a search warrant to get into the vehicle. Now, there is such thing as a search incidental to arrest. Now, if, you know, take for example, the subject that was pulled over, they have a revoked license, or for some other reason, the officer has a PC to place that person under arrest, then the officer, they can search that car incidental to arrest.
Okay, because there was a situation, a friend of mine called me one evening. He was very upset, and he was like, the police just pulled me over. I said, for what? He said, they said that my car matches the description of another car of someone had done something, you know. And of course it wasn't him. And then he said they made him pull his money out of his pocket and they counted it. And I was like, what? You know. Of course he was a black male, but I'm thinking to myself, wow, you know, really? You know, and of course it wasn't him, but I mean, it's just the way he said they were nasty, you know, had a little tone and everything. So I'm thinking to myself, you know, wow, you know, where's the justice? You know, he's, you know, he ended up not being him, of course, but I mean, the way he was treated, and take your money out your pocket and let me count it, and your car matches, I mean, no, you know, there's a right way to do things, you know. So when you talk to your Spring Spring Lake police people about that? Are those the kinds of conversations that you all are having about, what to say and, how to do things? Because evidently some police departments are not getting it.
Well, again, like I said earlier, and I can't sit here and I can't be a Monday morning quarterback for, other officers or other agencies. I can only speak, for the Spring Lake Police Department. I can also speak from my experience.
Okay.
Again, I don't know the circumstances, but what I expect and what my officers or what the Spring Lake police officers, are directed to do is follow our policies, our procedures, our guidelines, and our guidelines do not give them the right to arbitrarily search an individual's vehicle unless the person gives them consent, unless they have probable cause to do so. And one of the things that that I emphasize, that I expect out of my officers, is that you treat everyone with respect. Do your job. I'm not going to stand in the way of them doing their jobs, but you treat the individuals that you deal with, treat them with respect, and most of all, maintain your professionalism. If that officer maintains his professionalism, then everything else will fall in place, and I won't get the type of complaint, say, that you were speaking of. Now, not to say that that I have not received those type of complaints, that I've not had to deal with these type of complaints. But again, if it occurs, one thing that I do encourage all the citizens that Spring Lake, if you're not happy or you feel like the officer was unprofessional or did something unlawful, then report it. We have a strict complaint policy, and I can ensure the person that it will be looked into. If there's any wrongdoing by that officer, then the corrective actions, the necessary corrective actions will be taken. If the officer, if it's substantiated that he did not do anything wrong and that he was following department policies and procedures, then I will inform that individual, okay, this is what happened and this is our conclusion of the investigation. But by all means, report, what you feel or if you feel like you've been violated. I encourage that. I really do.
I encourage it as well. Let's talk a little bit, Chief, about community watch groups. The neighborhoods, they have a community watch group. And talk to me a little bit about, what exactly is community watch, what they can or cannot do, because of course we don't want the same situation that just took place with Trayvon to happen again. But let's talk a little bit about exactly what is community watch.
Well, I'm very big. I'm real big on what we call the community policing aspects of law enforcement. And with the community policing, that's just basically law enforcement in the community working together to protect and safeguard their communities. It has been a struggle, to repair and to rebuild some relationships with the community of Spring Lake because of some of the past problems. But again, we're past that, and I commend the Spring Lake community because I feel like the department in the community that we have a great working relationship. And community watch programs are all a part of community policing. It's all a part of the law enforcement agencies and the community working together. Because, particularly for small agencies, we can't see it all and we can't do it all. we need the help of the community, but the community has to trust. They have to have confidence in their police that, okay, if I call the police, if I help them out in a situation, that they're going to listen. And we really depend on that when, from the Spring Lake community. And they have responded. But community, I was speaking with an individual several days ago. Community watch is exactly what it says. It says community watch.
Without a gun.
Again, yes.
Without a pistol. Community watch is community watch without a pistol.
Community watch is community watch.
Okay.
I do not expect, and we do not encourage citizens to get involved or to engage an individual if they see this person and they feel like he's doing something illegal. We always discourage that. That's our responsibility. We ask that, hey, you call us, let us know what's going on, and let an officer come out there and let that officer assess the situation real shortly. Prime example, last weekend we arrested 2 individuals for breaking into a home in an area that we've had a lot of problems with. Well, a little bit of luck, some good work, body detective. But the main thing was the community, the neighbor. She saw these individuals coming out of a home.
Okay.
She knew that the person that lived in that home was out of town, and it was odd that they're walking out with a 60-inch television. But she didn't. She did exactly what she was supposed to do. She called us. And we were able to respond. We were able to go out to that area. Long story short, we ended up apprehending both of these individuals. And one of the individuals we had just arrested about 3 months ago, and we felt he was responsible for a lot of the problems that we've had of lately with vehicle break-ins, with homes being broken into. So. That's just an example of how effective, say, community watch, community policing is, because had she not contacted us, these individuals, they would have been successful in breaking into this victim's home, and they would have continued to do what they were doing until they were stopped. And generally, those that go out and break the law, particularly breaking into folks' home, they keep doing it until they're caught, even when they're caught. And if they were released back into the community, they will continue. Not all, but we do see that quite often they will continue until they're locked up and incarcerated so that they can't do what they're doing.
Okay. Currently, how many officers do you have in the Spring Lake area?
I have 29 officers sworn, myself included.
Okay.
When I took over the agency a little bit 3.5 years ago, I had 8 officers.
Wow, so from 8 to 29.
Yeah, 8 to 29. But of course, the department was shut down, and the department did not have any policing authority at that time. So it's a process of, I've spent, 3.5 years. We have rebuilding the department, regaining all the police powers, and we're at a point now where the Spring Lake Police Department has full police powers, and the past is behind us. But from 3.5 years ago, we had 8 officers, and we're at 29 now, and that's what the department has authorized.
Okay. Now, what kinds of things have you put into place in Spring Lake to make sure that crime is decreased and, to help the citizens feel safe?
Well, one of the biggest things that I feel like the department was lacking, and probably what may have led to some of the problems and the turmoil, again, is that relationship with the community. under leadership, again, I'm real big on leadership, and it's my responsibility to ensure that there are policies and procedures, that there's a structure. And through all that, that's how we've built that department. The department, we generally have 4 squads. There's a sergeant, 3 officers per that squad, and there's a watch commander in place. The department now has a traffic unit. We now have in place a community watch officer who he sort of shares his duties with code enforcement. Again, and I think one of the things that we've done, and hopefully the citizens, will agree, is just increased our police presence. And I think those things, have gone a long way, engaging the department more with the public, with the community. Again, I think has helped in the successful rebuilding process with the Spring Lake Police Department.
Okay. Now, how many men and how many women do you have in your staff?
Off the top of my head, we have, out of the 29, we have 3 female officers.
Oh, only 3?
Only 3, and that's good for a small department. Okay. Female officers, sometimes it's tough recruiting, and remember, we are recruiting against the Fayetteville's and the Cumberland counties. But we have 3 female officers, and that's those stats against other small departments. It's pretty good. We have a very diverse department. Again, male, female, black, white, Hispanic. We even have a female officer that she speaks 7 different languages. She's from originally born in Poland. Okay. So again, a very diverse department to go along with the Spring Lake community. Spring Lake is a very diverse community, and I think it's great that the department that protects and serves them is diverse also. Okay.
Chief, I want to thank you so much for being on my show. Let's talk with Dr. Shanessa Fenner. Would you like to give anyone your contact information in case they want to call you and become a police officer?
Yeah, again, yes, my name's, again, Troy McDuff. You can reach me at 910-436-0350. Okay. Again, any concerns, any problems, also, call that number. We try to be a very transparent department. So again, if there's a problem, even if I can just, says, please contact me.
Okay. Thank you, viewing audience, for tuning in to Let's Talk with Dr. Shanessa Fenner. I'll see you next time. Good night.